Okay, so today we're just broadcasting the fitting up of our a split jersey that we've done, and what we've done is we've stretched these two jerseys together and folded them back to back into a frame, and we're just going to go through and do the assembly part. But this is great if you have like a home and away team or this is for a corporate gift. One of the referees' shirts. In fact, there are two different shirts, orange and white, and by framing them that way, we split the design. So please join in and watch. This is coming to you live from Fix a Frame at Mount Cravat. If you've got any sport memorabilia framing that you need in Brisbane, please pop in and see us at 1230 Logan Road. But enough of the promotion. Just we'll dive right in, just see how we go. If you've got any questions, you can always ask them in the comments. We'll check through as we're going. Catch you soon. Yeah, let's just pop this one down. We're going to pop the camera down onto the bench, onto the workspace, so you'll be able to see the fitting up as it happens. That should be good. We've got our little microphone there. We'll just get him a little bit out the way so you get the whole view. We've already just cut. Oh, that's a little bit tight already. Might need to even trim a little bit of the glass. We've taken a lot to using some of the this just has a piece of clear glass in it this time. Often we're using conservation types of glass, but with this one, this is some of the TrueView Premium Clear. A little bit snug in this corner, we might need to trim it. Just going to check it the other way around. So what we'll do, we'll take a little slice off this just to get it to fit. A little bit snug. So we can manually just trim this down. The reason I'm wearing gloves is because, again, I don't really want to have to clean fingerprints off this a lot. And by having gloves on, it really helps in terms of keeping that clean. Or actually, the glass square. So yeah, just a little bit snug in fitting, and it's probably that corner is just a little tiny bit here. But what I'll end up doing is we often use a glass square, but this is just a aluminium straight edge. We're probably going to cut off here 2 or 3 mil of glass. Now, sometimes you use pliers and things. Actually, this is one thing where I will take my gloves off, because I tend to like getting hold of that glass just on the end there, seeing if we can give it a bit of a break. Doesn't want to play. So we just cut off that little tiny strip just to bring the glass down to size. And what we're going to do, I'm going to pop that back into the frame. A little bit struggling for space in this area, but we'll be right. So that's good. We're in. Just pop that ruler back. Thanks, Rog. Do you need that one? Yeah, so we tend to give the glass a bit of a clean with glass cleaner as well. But again, if you've been using the premium stuff, it's coming out pretty clean from the beginning, so we don't really need to go hard on the cleaner. Just got to check fingerprints. And we'll give it another clean in a minute. So that's just a preliminary clean. What I'm going to do is go through and put some spacers. Now these are, in this example, we've decided to go with a really hot orange because it matches the orange of the shirt. And in this example, we have a few different spacers there. I'm just going to turn this one around so we can get into the end here. And just a piece of board to be cutting on. And we're going to square that up on the end. So we'd often trim these up on our computer cutter, but in this example, we're just working on the bench and using a set square to trim up our pieces. These are going to fit in. We need to cut them to length. So again, squaring up actually on the frame. It's an easy way to get this size right. A couple of cuts. That goes inside with some double-sided tape. It's one of the high-tack varieties. It's there to hold this spacer, which we've made from a layer of coloured acid-free matting mounted to a 3mm foam board strip so that we could put a coloured section in there. Then we take our adhesive, pop it in. Again, we tend to put the top piece in first because then the sides will hold up that section. You don't really want the top, even though it's stuck on quite firmly with that adhesive, you don't want it to drop. So by leaving the space there, I just want to check one thing. Good on the front. Sometimes when we've got things like this, it can pay to colour the cut. So something useful, this is just a little tip. These are actually Copic markers, very handy for retouching frames in the corners. But what we can do in this example is on the edge, if we were going to see the edge of this, we can colour this edge with some orange, and all that does is where the this is going to sit on the glass side, and not that you see that, it's just under the edge of the glass, but if there's any ghosting, that's going to pick it up and you're not going to see it. I'm going to actually add a colour to the end section. We're going to trim both ends of this one off, it's a long one. But that's just a tip if you're getting any sign of that spacer showing. Sometimes people make the mistake of sticking that onto a thicker foam piece, and then you end up seeing that join on the end. So yeah, it can help to even just cut. In this exact piece, it's not going to matter, but when we do the long ones, if you colour that little end, when it butts up to the other end, if there's even the slightest of gap, you'll see a white line, whereas if you've put a little bit of that colour on, you're not going to see that in that join. Again, trimming this off to be the other vertical member. These are serving as spacers to keep the jersey from touching the glass. I'm just going to run along. Cover that side that's sitting down. The other side's butting up to a white piece, so you're not going to see anything there. So yeah, we probably frame 10 to 20 jerseys a week on average of different types. This one's a little bit unusual because of the split, having two shirts put together, so that we've split them and joined two. In fact, part of the first part of that where I stretched it was inside the Framers Club training. So if you're part of Framers Club, you can always access the resources there that are there for picture framers who want to learn how to do some of the complex framing techniques. There, just checking those ends. Like, I think we've got just enough in length here. I am going to be able to trim a section. I do want to trim the end off just so that I get a nice clean 90 degrees to work with. And that edge, we are going to colour that little tip. And we are going to colour that bottom edge. You can see I already put some colour on there. I'm going to set the length here again. And so I'm just using the actual frame as a guide. You could measure it if you, depends on what you're comfortable with in terms of your abilities there. But I use the frame as the square up against it, and we come down and we trim into that section. So it gives me a nice vertical right angle that's going to butt up into this corner. Now, same sort of thing. What I want to do, make sure that that's pre-colored before we start. Quick test. Yeah, we're good on length. And so then that's going to fit in there. There are different widths of double-sided tape you can use. This one here I'm using is a 12, and in fact I'll probably even be better off coming up into the 18, because it's a 20mm wide spacer, so we might put some of that on our other pieces. Now, just taking care to not touch the glass. The cleaner you can keep everything, the easier it's going to be for you at the end of the day. So that's just sitting in. Flip it around so we get to the other side. Yeah, we've got a busy shop today, so there's bits going on. Our paper dispenser's just under the counter here, so for the brown paper. So people from out the back who are assembling come through and grab materials. Don't panic, it's all part of our operation. Sometimes you might hear various machines cut in and make a noise. But again, we're a real picture framing shop, and we are actually open right now. So yeah, a lot going on. So now it's our last spacer. Yeah, It's not that you necessarily see that edge, but it's better to be safe than sorry, because you don't want to have to pull things apart later on, because you can see a little ghost of white. So in this case, I'll put the 18mm on. One thing with using double-sided, particularly on mat boards, you're best off using complete strips. Don't try to do little patches. Things tend to buckle up between adhesives. So we always like to use full coverage if we can. Not the right way. And so that's our spaces done, which we've chosen that orange in this case because of the colour of the jersey itself. You can actually print logos and things on there if you wanted to do something a little bit creative. This just is a simple display, but the little orange line, when you see it from the front, you're going to see the orange inside on the space of the frame. It's just going to add a nice little touch into this example. So just going to give it another quick wipe. I'm not putting any glass cleaner on. I'm just using a microfiber cloth dry at this point. Make sure the frame, it's only a skinny frame, so need to be pulled in when it's fitted so that there's no bowing. And we use a special hanger. If you hang around to the end, you'll see we've got a particular hanger that works very well on this type of frame. So a little bit of, this is a air duster. Again, blows a little bit of air. Just want to make sure there's no dust. And we're going to give our jersey or our shirt a little bit of a blow too. Bring it up into the area so you can see it. In fact, before we go in, I've just noticed, make sure that the plaque, in this case it's a little silver plaque that we've got on there with a black lettering, and this is actually for a referee that's going off to the World Rugby Cup in Japan. So they're getting this as a thing, well, as a token of appreciation for their service. And so in this case, we've shown all the sponsors like All Sports Physiotherapy and Shaw and Partners Wealth Management there, and Queensland Rugby Association. So got to just check again. There's another little ghost. I just, like when you see some of these things catching in the light, just make sure it's all nice and clean. And we're going to give it another little blow in the actual frame, so I'll try to keep the dust out. Now they can go together. And what's going to happen is we're going to change our air blower over to a staple gun. Make sure I'm not too caught up on our power cables and things. We've got, we'll be right. We're right. It's wrapped around my computer cable, but we'll be okay. So yeah, this is a little staple gun, wide crown. And inside there, we normally run anywhere from 10mm through to 16mm staples. In this case, these look like 12s. I was just checking that we had some in there. And this is going to staple across that join. You could use different metal brackets to hold your piece in if you don't have a staple gun. again, commercially, we normally use some sort of fitting tools to hold everything together. Seeing how far over we can get there. Paper they're in, we just got to give it a bit of a clean, make sure it's all good on the front. So this one's coming together quite nicely. Can I get some of that glass cleaner that we've got on the other table? That'd be great. Again, just give it a bit of a clean now on the face. It's all pretty clean to start with. The cleaner you keep everything from the beginning, the better things are going to work out. Actually, Catherine, with that photo, I've got to tell you something about that later, so just remind me. The one you just took, you took a photo? Yeah. Just let me tell you about that a bit afterwards. So yeah, what we've got our shirt so far in. You can see the orange is actually running inside under the glass there, so you get that whole colouring. We'll put the camera up in a minute when we've actually finished it. You can see the finished item, but at this point, now that it's all clean, we're going to seal that in. I'm just using a little bit of framers tape. This is an adhesive one. Some people use the water-based variety. There are all different types of tapes. Different tapes for different applications. This one isn't a particularly wide one, but we're going to use I think it's a 36 mil. Although common is 48 or 2 inch, but this is more than enough on this size. Taping's important for a few reasons. One is to keep the dust out, but it also serves a vital role in bracing your picture frame, particularly when you're using a narrow molding. If you imagine the tape itself is actually going to hold the whole frame into the backing, and it creates the rigidity that is needed. So it's not a good idea to skimp on taping. And in fact, some of those water-based tapes were very good because they shrink as they dry, and then that, as it dries, pulls the frame in tight to the backing, creates a very strong framing package. It's always good to have the frame itself quite well braced or reinforced, particularly when you get into big sizes. You don't want any flexibility in that frame. It can cause things like the glass to break, for example. It's one of the reasons you've got to be very careful with some metal picture frames. Some of the aluminium picture frames, if they are skinny and there's flexibility in the corner, it'll often break the glass diagonally. So we just personally, unless we're doing something where we need the conservation properties of aluminium or some of the strength of a very minimalistic moulding, our preference is tend to be towards timber frames. But again, every picture framer has different preferences when it comes to what they use for different projects. In this example, it's a timber molding with a black composition coating, and then on the it's got two little silver lines on it. Adds a bit to the definition. I have a little taping device that we use, which is just there to help smooth the tape down and burnish it. With any pressure sensitive tapes, you find, or with any pressure mounting, whether it be mounting onto adhesive foam board or sticking anything down, it's always time, temperature and pressure that cause that adhesive to go off. So when you tape down your back on your picture frame, it helps to give it a good burnishing, because that heat helps set that adhesive, and that gives you that rigidity and protection from peeling. So just checking again which way up we are. So this is the bottom down here. On the bottom corners, I'm going to put two little bump-ons. And that's our, these stop, one, the wall getting marked, but also stops dust from forming on the bottom of the frame, which helps prevent dust, or helps prevent mold from growing. So then, on the base, we normally put our checklist. Our frames go through quite a distinct checks as we make them. And then with the hangers, in this example, it's quite a big frame, so we've got a couple of different hangers that we could look at that are potential to use. This is a strip type hanger that sits quite narrow, and this is the same sort of, actually lost a bit of focus there, I don't know why. There we go. So trying to focus on on what I got in my hand there. That is a little little strap hanger. It's got two fittings. That would also work quite well. But given that this one's quite large, I'm going to go with the larger hanger. These are normally fitted a third of the way down the frame itself. So at that point, I just make a small hole, a pilot hole for the screw. And then we're going to add our other holes to match up. And this type of narrow hanger is actually quite good for these skinny frames. You do have issues if you try to use a normal D-ring. Sometimes we use wider mouldings than this, but this is actually quite narrow, so we're going for those small fittings. And we're going to pop in some quite long screws. We've actually gone into 16 mil in this case. We want to get something fairly strong. They're just a self-tapping screw. You can see we got 4 in each side. Just going to make sure that that's well reinforced. Once we pop these on, we're going to actually put a very substantial wire across. We're going to use one of our number 6 wire, which is a 27 kilo breaking strain. Most of the wires are rated at a higher level than what they physically break at. Are rated less than what they physically break at. But if in doubt, you always want to go to a thicker wire rather than something that is too weak. It's got a little bit of a lip with the foam, so it's a little bit tricky getting that in, but this is quite a substantial wire for this size of ring. But trick is, our wire's gone through the hole. It's around the wire itself, so that locks it, and then we're back down into the hole of the ring again. So it's gone through that hole twice. We do have a little video. It's one of the highly watched ones on tying wire. This one's a new roll. It's just launching itself on me at the moment. Normally you put them on a spool, on a dispenser. Our dispenser's out the back with one of the other staff doing assembly at the moment. So yeah, we're going to have reasonably loose wire. And the reason for that is the break or the force exerted by the wire on the hanger multiplies by, or is affected by, the angle that the wire is. So when it's 33 degrees, it's half the weight of the picturesque force on both points. So yeah, better to have a loose wire than a very tight wire. And loose wire and 2 hooks is always good for something like this if you're hanging it. Yeah, so fairly substantial cable on this one. Give that a bit of a tug just to make sure she's secure. I'll turn it up. We'll get our camera back up again. There we go. So what we've got here, we've split a jersey into 2, or it's actually a referee's shirt split into 2. So we've got an orange half and a white half. It shows all the corporate sponsors, and we've actually put the colour inside into the spacer there, which is a really nice touch. And we've got the little silver line running around on the frame. I don't know whether you can pick that up on screen. And that silver actually reflects the fact that there's a silver plaque on the base there. So if you need a jersey like this done, you can always pop in and see us at Mount Gravatt. If you want to learn how to frame jerseys, we do have a great training that's available. You'll be able to find one of the links to that training underneath this video, or certainly visit us at fixaframe.com.au, and you can find links to those sort of trainings on our website. So I'm going to duck off here, but we'll catch you next time when we're going live from Fix A Frame at Mount Gravatt. This has been David Shumme. Thank you for joining me today.